Welcome to our video series. My name is Eldon from Rydehm, and with us today we have a fitness advisor for me who have taught me Pilates since I got injured. And introducing Stef.
Hi everyone, I'm Stef. I'm from SP Pilates and Yoga. I have been training or teaching at SP Pilates for the last 4 years.
We'll just be demystifying some of the misconceptions and ideas about Pilates and how it can help athletes and triathletes like myself. Many of us heard of Pilates, but we don't really know how it works and what's the difference between Pilates and yoga.
Yoga's been around for 200 years. It's a relatively old sport or old fitness activity. Pilates has some bases that's derived from yoga, and it's been developed since the World War by Joseph Pilates himself. Compared to yoga, it's still a relatively new and young sport. From a focus perspective, yoga promotes flexibility, mobility within the body. It's also a good one for people to actually de-stress, depending on the kinds of yoga that you go into, because you would have things focusing on breathing, meditation, and what have you. With Pilates, focus is more on the core, and it's around being aware of your body, being in control of your body. So every movement, every exercise that we make, there are targeted muscles that you want to really activate and engage.
You mentioned that there are different kinds of yoga. How about Pilates? I heard there are different types as well, right?
In terms of the methodology, the original methodology would be what we call as the classic Pilates. Over the years, with different disciples, if you will, of Joseph Pilates, it's then evolved. So you have things like contemporary, where it's a little bit more modern, but Pilates will have a little bit more modifications to different body types, incorporating dance movements and what have you. So you get different types of methodology. I think what most people will interpret as different types of Pilates is more the props or the apparatus, equipment that we use. There are different types of classes. There are mat Pilates. Similar to yoga, you can just do it on the mat. You could use different props like a foam roller, a Pilates swing, weights, resistance bands. Those could be introduced into a mat routine. You could also have a reformer, which is an apparatus and has a moving carriage that helps with some of the movement using springs. You could also have Cadillac, trapeze, or the chair and barrel. Those are different apparatus that you could find in a Pilates studio that's fully fitted.
Coming from a perspective from someone who has been doing weight training in the gym already, so is there a difference between that and Pilates?
In a gym workout where you're focused on weight training, it is likely that you're focusing on the major muscles. So the big muscle groups of the body, like your quads, the front of your thighs, your hamstrings, the pecs, so big muscles. In Pilates, we don't just only look at the major muscles, we call them. We also focus and work on the minor muscles. For example, the sides of your hips, the knee, the smaller muscles which stabilize the body, helps you to control the body a little bit, but also helps to prevent injuries for the future.
I agree with you. I've been practicing for a few years. I realized that we always work on areas and muscles that I don't really use during my swim, bike and run. Yeah, so this actually can help me, right?
From a swimming perspective, you use a lot of your delts, your arms, your lats, the area below your armpits, legs, of course, the hip flexors. Those are the typical types of muscles that you use when you're swimming. When you're biking, it's really focused on the legs, so hips, the front of the thighs, the hamstrings, the area behind the thighs, your calf. Those are the main muscles that move you when you're cycling. When you're running, again focusing on the legs, anything from the hip down, that's the muscles that you're working on. When you think about Pilates, the focus is really on the core. So having a strong core will help you with these different exercises. For example, when you're swimming, you are moving your limbs, your peripherals that we call them. Your trunk or your quad doesn't really move, but you want it really strong to prevent any injuries or lower back pain that we hear people say.
For example, myself, I got introduced to Pilates because my shoulder got subluxed. Okay, and my physiotherapist actually recommended me to go for a Pilates session to strengthen my core and my stability in my shoulders.
Yes.
Yeah. So, what are some of the common injuries that you have observed over the few years? And how does Pilates actually help in injury prevention?
Let's say, for example, runners. Runners will have tight IT bands or IT band syndrome, runner's knee, ACL, MCL, whether it's a strain, a tear, patella issues. There would also be very, very tight hamstrings, tendinitis, shin-splints. All of those are very common injuries that we see runners coming in with. With cyclists, we will probably see a subset of that. Pilates helps to work on the other muscles that's not commonly used to help to improve performance of the individual, but also to prevent injury like overcompensation with the major muscles that you constantly train on, and that helps to stabilize and balance the body a little bit, giving you more control.
I once had tendinitis, and coming to a few sessions, stabilizing my calves and my hamstrings actually helped me a lot. Yeah. So coming from someone who's new to triathlon, even running, how can we then start to incorporate Pilates into our training schedule?
Someone who's new as an athlete, and for anyone who's looking to start an exercise, Pilates is actually a good one to have as a basis or fundamentals. If you go into any Pilates class, whether you're using a reformer, whether you're practicing on the mat, the focus is really around the core engagement and activation. Having awareness of your body, stabilizing your body before you start to introduce movements, that's a good ground to have for anyone who's looking to be introduced into a new sport. When you think about the posture of a cyclist having to cycle for long distance, having a neutral spinal alignment, that's really important to prevent injuries and pulling of the lower back. Similarly, when you're swimming as well, having a strong trunk will give you the power to be able to push stand.
How often do you suggest someone come for Pilates session? How many times a week?
Well, I think it really depends on the condition of the individual. Well, when I say condition, I don't mean it in a bad way. It depends on what kind of training and fitness level the individual comes in with. If it's someone who's from a rehab perspective with injuries, then we probably need a little bit more conditioning, more focus, emphasis on the body. So a couple more sessions in a week might be more useful for the person. I think for someone who's actually already engaged in training, with Pilates, it's a complementary, I would say, a supplement to the training regime. I don't think that Pilates will replace the training regime of a triathlete. You can definitely build it in. It depends on also the availability of the individual as well. So I would say once a week to keep the Rydehm going and to get that awareness and focus would be the minimum that I would say. Because after all, over time, if you don't engage the muscles will forget the movement. And so when you try to reactivate, re-engage those sleeping muscles, it might take a while to come back.
I agree. I mean, I stopped a few times. Break the cycle, and then, oh my god, it's so hard to get back again. Okay, so next one is for the guys out there who think that Pilates is not for them, okay, and who are not flexible enough. Do I need to be flexible to try Pilates?
So this is the biggest myth of all. No, you do not have to be flexible to do Pilates. Flexibility, mobility, stability should be an outcome when practicing Pilates, meaning after you've incorporated into your regime, whatever your regime might be, you should start to feel that you're able to move and control your muscles more, and you're able to condition it, lengthen it, strengthen it, depending on how you train. So no, it's not a prerequisite, and hopefully will be an outcome after practicing Pilates.
Okay, if I were a new person going to start out Pilates, do you do a consultation, like find out the needs of the client?
Before a client comes into the studio, we would already ask questions like, do you have any pre-existing injuries? Do you have medical conditions? What's your current fitness routine like? So there will be sort of screening questions that we would ask when a client reaches out to us directly. If there's someone coming in totally new without any sort of fitness background, so maybe stop exercising for a couple of years, or coming in with injuries, whether it's doctor's advice or physio's advice, depending on the condition, we would either suggest for a private session in a one-to-one setup, or if we think that the client is fit enough to join one of our basics classes, that would be our recommendation to try and engage and sort of induct the client into the exercise. For someone who's been regularly working out in the gym, pumping, running, having lots of stamina, someone who is very aware of their body, they could take it up one notch and perhaps try out our strength class or some of the classes that challenge more on stability, endurance with the use of different cloths.
So is there a difference between learning Pilates like on YouTube versus from a live instructor?
Great question. YouTube, as well as some of our social media platforms, definitely give insights and exposure of Pilates and yoga to people at home who's looking to try out the sport. Depending on the videos or the instructors and coaches who's doing those videos, I would caution people who are new to this exercise, be careful because if you don't have body awareness, if you don't know which are the muscle groups that you need to engage with a particular exercise, if you don't have someone to correct you, or if you don't have like a mirror to actually see your own posture, there is a risk of injury practicing by yourself. And we do see a couple of clients that come in through the door telling us, you know what, Pilates is really difficult. I was following this video and I pulled something in my back. And that's likely because they were following the movement but engaging different muscles or engaging muscles that's not really desired for that particular exercise. For someone who's new, I would say be very careful when you're following the videos. Look for videos that give you proper cueing that you actually understand in layman's term. Be aware of that as well.
Alright, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stef.
Thank you.
There you go, Stef from SP Pilates sharing with us more about Pilates. So if you'd like to find out more, check out their website.
Thank you.